What's up YouTube, Joe here from Zephyrwargames, and I'm bringing to you guys a deck update for Sakuyamon. So as we all know, the September Banlist got revealed just last week, and with it came 3 hits for Sakuyamon, 1 in the forms of a pair ban, and 2 in the forms of limitations within the main deck. So with all that, I needed to and wanted to update the profile, so I've been doing some testings with some friends of mine. They've been doing their own testings as well, and we found lots of text that we can utilize within the deck, and I've got a build that comfortably feels nice to me, and I wanted to share with you guys so you got a good understanding of where you can take Sakuyamon until that new structure deck where it comes out. So before I get into the profile, if you enjoy it, give us a like and subscribe down below. Ding the notification bell, because if you enjoy person's content here on YouTube, you don't want to miss out on that content, and that notification bell helps prevent that. All the support is greatly appreciated, and thank you guys so much for doing so. So with all that said and done, let's get into Sakuyamon. So the main contents of the deck in terms of your average Sakuyamon list hasn't really changed. It's so much you're taking cards out that have been hit on the list, and you're replacing them with your own personal text that you feel like can just suit the deck and suit your own personal playstyle. Cards within the deck can fit a variety of different ratios, and all depends on your, again, personal preference. A lot of cards in this deck are cards that have either been used already, are currently in use, and cards that people are also currently looking at. And I'll be going through each one as I get to them, as well as give my own examples and reasonings as to why they're being played in the ratios and how to use them in different ways. So to start off with the egg, I'll go through the deck as fast as I can, while also giving explanations and descriptions, as most of the deck, as I said, is self-explanatory. Digimon hasn't changed. We want that draw power when using our option cards, so we play 4 copies of the Digimon. You could look into the newer Digimon, BT17, I believe, or BT19, as that can get your plugin back if you're going for a more pure base build. I know our channel member Chris does that with his own pure base build. But in this build, I'm going for sticking with the EX2 Digimon. The main search of the deck still hasn't changed. It's still 4 copies of BT17 Renamon. Searches you anything in the deck essentially that isn't Renamon, which is super important. And we're still having 3 copies of the EX2 Renamon, mostly to have in the back in our stack so we can get the free memory when we start using our option cards. But it is also an additional searcher. Just bear in mind, it is going to bottom deck all of your option cards. We are still playing 2 copies of Renamon X to finish off the level 3s, as this one wants to go flying away. You could ideally, if you want to, bump this up more if you really want to get back use of the green plugin. I feel like I haven't seen the need to get the use of the green plugin back, as I feel like if I'm needing the green plugin more, I'll just take in additional cards in the deck that can essentially facilitate the green plugin's use, which I'll also show at the end of the video. Still with the 9 rookies, I feel like 9 is perfectly fine for Sakuyamon. I don't think you ideally need a bit more. And again, it all depends. If you're going more of a pure base build, then you could potentially make it a 10 rookie count, which then if it's the case, I'd just bump up one of those 2. I mean, I can't bump this up anymore. So yes, of course I had to bump up one of these 2. So it'd probably be the Renamon that I bump up more, probably, if I went with a solely more pure build. For level 4s, we're playing 3 copies of the BT19 Cubimon. This is a render drawing effect that if you have one of your Tamers, you may play a Rika from your hand, and does minus DP in the inherent when you use an option card. I've gone for 3 copies of this, which may seem a bit weird as you really want to get your Rikas out, but ideally the way that the Rika works is that it is an on-play searcher, which if you do have it in your hand, and you like, let's say you had a rookie disc and a Rika in your hand, if you're going turn 1, you just need to put the rookie in the back and just hard play the Rika. There's no point delaying your consistency and your progression just to get a free Rika of the Cubimon. So I've gone for 3 copies of this for the moments where if I do have this in the Rika and I can do it, I'll just do it. But I wanted to have space for a copy of the BT10 Cubimon, as this can also be a copy of quote-unquote Venomon X, getting your plugins back to your hand. But it is also additional consistency where if you have a free plugin in your hand, you can just trash it and draw additional cards. So I just like the versatility that Cubimon gives, which is why I've gone for a 3-1 split. It used to be a 3-2 split, but I've gone for 2 copies of Shushumon promo and just the 1 copy of Starmon. As my mate was testing this deck against another one of my friends, so Biddy was testing this against Shane, which you've seen here on the channel, as well as the podcast, a bi-weekly podcast. I was saying that maybe there's a argument to put Starmon back into the deck, and it's just a quicker way to just get rid of floodgates. Shane was saying like you could, but there's probably no need for it. But I wanted to put it back into the deck just as this is a one-off. So I have 3 ways to get barrier within my stack, which barrier is kind of more important now, at least in terms of this build. But I wanted to have a more aggressive way to just remove those floodgates, those cost reduction floodgates that you could run into, and so on. So I put a 2-1 split on the barrier inherent champions. That's it for the champions. Again, a nice small lineup because we need to have space for our option cards. For the level 5s, the 5s just have not changed. It's still 4 copies of the best BT17 Talmon, that barrier, play a plugin straight away with Digivolving, play another plugin as an inherent. It's just option card. It's just such a strong level 5, but we're still playing 1 copy of the Ace, and it's just essentially a pseudo 5th copy of this Talmon, allowing you to still use an option card upon evolution. The Ace also comes in handy as in the forms of just a nice hard slam. So again, if you are getting into Sakuyamon, just note that you can just hard slam the Talmon if you just really need to start climbing up. It can essentially unbrick your hands. Moving on to the level 6s, the 6s have made a change. We now gone to 1 copy of the BT19 Sakuyamon, as this is hit to 1 on the limited list for very good reasons. Super strong consistency, allowing you to draw 2 upon evolution, allowing you to use an option card for free, and then if you do, she's still on the board, you get to spawn a blocker token. She just does so much for the deck in terms of progression and consistency strength, which made complete sense to hit it to 1. For the swaps for that, you got 2 options. You can either go with more copies of the BT17 Sakuyamon. If you want to have a form of protection stack, you can start using this a lot more. This lets you use a plugin, an option card, as well as doing 6k minus. And if you do use an option card, she can't be returned to the hand or deck until the end of your opponent's turn, which is very, very strong. Though what me and the guys have thought of and is doing quite well is 1 copy of Kazuhumon. So Kazuhumon is essentially a pseudo Sakuyamon. It's basically Dark Sakuyamon. So what she does is that she's always treated as Sakuyamon, but just bear in mind she is not, in terms of rulings, she is not treated as Sakuyamon within the stack if you go X antibody on top of her. As within the stack, she is just Kazuhumon, so Sakuyamon X does not notice her in the forms of triggering her second effect. If that does get overruled, and if you know about that, please put it in the comments below so everyone knows. But as far as I've been informed, that is how her ruling works. But what she does do is essentially acts like the limited Sakuyamon in the combination with options and your rookies. As on Evo, you may use an option card from your hand with a play cost of 5 or less without paying the cost, and once per turn when you do use an option card that has 2 or more, you get to play a Talmon or level 4 or lower blue or yellow Digimon from your sources without paying the cost. So what you do is that when you go into her, you'll use your option card, and if you haven't used a scramble to evolve up, you get to trigger her second effect to play one of your cards in the stack. So what you could do, if you do have like a Talmon Ace, obviously you can do that with like the whole Tal loop. But what you would primarily want to do is play out one of your rookies here. Once you play out one of your rookies, they're going to do the on-play to search your deck, which is essentially means you're kind of just doing exactly what the old Sakuyamon did. In the forms of you're playing an option card, you get to draw cards, and you're spawning an extra body. You're doing the exact same thing, just in a very unique order. So The one copy of Kazoohamon is doing very well. We're very much enjoying it. But again, if you don't want to play the Kazoohamon, you can just bump up this Sakuyamon to 3 copies and you can be good to go. So last of the level 6s, we are playing still the 2 copies of Sakuyamon X. This is the main go-getter of the deck. This is your aggression. This is spawning more bodies on the field. And it's just doing so much for you. You still need to play at least 2 copies of her. For the level 7s, because we can't play Volder Arm anymore, we are resulting to 3 copies of Ruin Mode. And the new tech that everyone is talking about, 1 copy of Shakamon. So Ruin Mode is basically self-explanatory. You used to play at 2 copies before, and now with the Volder Arm hit, we just bump the more copies up. So we're getting more and more consistency in the forms of just stalling our opponent's field. And so from there. But what everyone is now talking about is playing Shakamon in the deck. So what Shakamon does is that, if no one knows, this is part of the Journey to the West deck. And it's a strong level 7, but it also has its downsides as well. But there is a unique way of play that I wanted to just go over as well that you can essentially do with this. So what she does is that she evolves for 4. She's a level 7 yellow that can evolve for 4 memory on a level 6. So on play and when digivolving, all Digimon gain -1 security attack until the end of your opponent's turn. All turns when this Digimon would be deleted or returned to the hand or deck, you may play one of the Journey to the West Digimon, for the blurriness, from under its sources. You're not going to be using that effect. What you do have though is that on your turn, all security attack minus on your field becomes security attack plus. And then at the end of your opponent's turn, once per turn, you may place a Digimon card with a security attack modifier to the top of its owner's security stack. So what she essentially does is that she gives on Evo blanket, just like Ruin Mode with blanket DP, she just gives blanket -1 security attack to everything. While it's your turn though, all of your Digimon change from security attack minus security attack plus. So your opponent's going to be under security attack minus for 2 whole turns, being your turn and your opponent's. And then while it's your turn, you're going to have security attack plus, and then back to your opponent's turn, back to minus. So you can just go with the standard Sakuyamon build combo. We're going into Volder Arm. You can just go Sakuya X, swing, use an option card, restand, go into Shakamon, do 2 checks with Shakamon, then do 2 more checks with Shakamon again. And then you do your rush token for the 5th check. Literally just what we're doing with Volder Arm. The only thing you're not getting is a on play and suspension stun. You're getting a aggressive stun in the forms of when your opponent's just now got security attack minus. They're not going to be able to touch you. The issue that Shakamon has that Volder Arm kind of didn't have is that Volder Arm is always going to have Sec Plus. Like, it's always going to have that aggression. It's always going to be able to just punish your opponent in that way. The moment Shakamon's back to your turn again, she's essentially just a dead level 7 on the field. She can only just keep on just doing 1 swing. She's not stunning your opponent anymore. She's not doing anything like that. So what me and the guys were talking about in the forms of like, okay, cool, well, how can we utilize Shakamon a bit more? I was saying, and what I could probably advise to all of you to at least give it a go and see how it feels, is that once it goes to the end of your opponent's turn with Shakamon, use her effect and just spin herself back to your security. Just essentially utilize Shakamon as hyper aggression quickly if you need to. And if you haven't gained them yet, recover 1. Because by recovering 1, by putting the Shakamon to your security, you are freeing up your board. So if you have a scramble lying around, you can now scramble on your turn again. You know, put something back to top of your deck, spawn out a rookie, get some searching, just start doing your climbs up all over again. So maybe you could probably get into a Ruin Mode for free. But then you're also building up your defense because you're gaining additional security in the forms of a 15k beta sitting there that your opponent now has to keep on thinking about if they ever want to start swinging your security. They could probably forget about it, but it could also just keep you back into the game if you've gone like while you're trying to build up your stack, you've maybe taken a few chips. If you haven't killed them with a Shakamon play, cool, I got a shield back, now you have to do all that work again. So that's just something to think about if you are testing out the Shakamon. I'm really testing as a one-of, as I feel like primarily in this format, Ruin Mode is just an overall better boss monster. So I've gone for 3 and 1 on the Shakamon and the Ruin Mode, though I am seeing people going for 2-2 split, and depending if you're more of a hyper-aggressive player, maybe you'll go with 3 Shakamon. But I do have a tech in the deck that allows you to still be hyper aggressive with Shine Greymon Ruin Mode, which you'll see in a moment once we get to the option cards. For the Tamers, self-explanatory is just 4 Rika. I still see no reason to play anything else, so if you did want to play something else, I'd probably go with the Memsetter TK for additional forms of consistency by looking for your security as well as being a memory setter. It is also just a Tamer, so if you do have other coloured plugins in your deck, you do have a Tamer on the board to start activating those. But primarily, Rika is your main Tamer. Is consistency, is memory gain back. It is a Tamer, and it's called Rika. It just ticks all the boxes for you. For the option cards, still 4 yellow scramble. They didn't touch this, which is absolutely perfect. This is still your best option in the deck in the forms of what your deck's trying to do. So we're still maxing on 4 scramble. And we're still maxing on 4 copies of physical training to search as everything in the deck, which is primarily also including your Tamers as well as your scrambles as well. I'm still on 2 copies of yellow memory boost. I see people playing more of this. I feel like 2 is just enough. I think this level of consistency as well as the rookies as well is just more than enough, especially since one of my champions is also pseudo consistency. We are on the 1 copy of the green plugin. As Bandai felt like it's needed to hit it at 1, and completely understandable. This card just does so much for the deck. But yeah, so 1 is just perfectly fine. Though I do see people just taking it out completely now and just playing like another yellow boost or something like that, just maxing it on the boost consistency, which makes completely understandable. What you can do though, if you really want to get back the yellow plugin in a different way, green plugin in a different way, you can take in a copy of win rate 60%. This ideally essentially does the exact same thing as Digievolution plugin S for you. The only cost is that you are ditching a card in your hand instead of drawing a card. So if you don't know what plugin does, Digi win rate 60% does, is that while you have a Tamer play, you ignore this card's color requirements, exactly the same as the plugins. And the next time one of your Digimon would Digivolve, you can trash a Digimon card in the hand of the same color as the one you're evolving to reduce its cost by 4. The security phase just add this card to its opponent's hand. Essentially, it is doing the same thing as a Digievolution plugin S. The only difference is that the plugin S forces the evolution. It's doing the evolution there and then, whereas this is saying the next time you evolve, you do get to minus it by 4. The benefit though to this is that whereas plugin S couldn't work on your level 7s, this does. So you've got ups and downs as to the comparison, but I feel like this is a suitable thing to start looking at if you really want to get back the plugin S in the forms of what it is actually doing. Otherwise, you can do what I'm currently doing is actually just adding in 2 copies of offensive plugin A. What this does is essentially is filling in the slots where the plugin S was, while also being the replacement for Voldemort. So what this is that it also ignores color requirements, and that one of your Digimon gains sec +1 until the end of the turn. So what you essentially do is that when you're doing the Evo Climb combo with your level 7 and Sakuyamon X, you just use Sakuya X to use plugin A. Do 2 checks with Sakuya X. Hopefully you have the barrier inherent on your field. Then when you start swinging again, you would use the plugin A off the Talmon effect, and then you'd use you use the Sakuya X for the plugin A, and when you swing again with Sakuyamon for the next 2 checks, you use the Talmon inherent to use your scramble to go into ruin mode. Ruin mode is now doing 2 checks at your opponent's security, essentially doing the 4 checks that your Volder arm combo would do. But it is now giving the blanket 10k minus, and you're getting recover 1, and you're getting an additional hatch in your back row. So it does all the values of Volder arm while also getting all the benefits of ruin mode. It is ideally stronger than the Shakamon play, in my personal opinion, especially since this is also searchable within the deck, and it's reusable, a bit more reusable. But it's completely up to you and what you would like to do. I still think this is perfectly strong and valuable for the deck, in just some forms of replacing the bits that we just lost. The last 2 cards in the deck are just the Pause Plug and P. It's a form of disruption against things like Medieval Gallantmon, things of that nature. It's just a nice form of removal as well, with the 6k minus that we can have in the deck that is again also searchable. But that, guys, is the profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below what you're doing with Sakuyamon. Are you going for a more pure base build, putting the somewhat competitiveness of it of the way? Are you giving it a break until the new structure that comes out? Or are you doing something similar, finding text that can just fill in the gaps that the ban list has essentially touched, to get the power and consistency back into the deck? My personal opinion for Sakuyamon is that the deck's perfectly fine. With the hits, the only thing is that you have to essentially, again, go outside of what we were doing before, maybe bring back some old text into the deck, or just looking at some new ones and unconventional ones to fill in those gaps. But the deck overall is perfectly fine. I think it's a perfectly strong deck, especially for a local environment. But I still think that it has a lot of gas and quirks to go into a regionals as well, especially if you're very comfortable with the deck. It could be very rewarded. So as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I will be bringing more deck profile updates for all the decks that got hits that I have here on the channel, and maybe even some new ones as well. So stay tuned for all of those when I get to them. So as always, like, comment, and subscribe. So next time, as always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.